Hello, everyone. This is Witcher the Wizard coming to you again for another Twin Flames, the Twin Within energy report for the week of November 25th to, December 1st. December already. Whew. Well, here we are. Again, this is, I call it the Twin Within energy report because in my personal perspective, the twin flame journey is all about going within and doing internal discovery and coming into union with that other side of yourself that you're not really familiar with. So if you identify yourself as primarily masculine, that other side of yourself would be the feminine side of yourself. And if you vice versa, if you identify yourself as primarily of a feminine energy, then that would be the masculine side of yourself. And so as we get to know the other side of ourselves, if you primarily identify yourself as the feminine energy, if you get to know the masculine energy better, you will actually come into a greater understanding of your feminine energy. It's a reciprocal process, and it makes you a lot stronger as an individual, and it helps you come into alignment with your true self. And once you do that, then everything on the external starts to fall into place, and you start to walk your path, be yourself, do the things in life that really matter to you, and attract the people that not only are right for you, but are in alignment with you, and in alignment with your highest goals and your highest good. And that's when I believe the space for love actually opens up. So, getting on with it then. So for the feminine energy for this week, I pulled the Six of Wands in reverse. The Six of Wands in reverse. So if you look at this card, she's standing up in front of a crowd. She's in the full spotlight. She's in the center. And she's obviously doing some public speaking. So the Six of Wands, the normal representation is a man on a horse, and he's kind of like walking the horse through the crowd, and he's got a laurel wreath on one of his wands, so he's got accolades, he's done something good. It's really a card of leadership, right? So here we see leadership, not in the traditional sense of leadership, where you've got like a government official or a prince or some kind of governing person, but leadership in the sense of getting up and making yourself vulnerable, right? Public speaking. Public speaking is it's a leadership activity, and boy, does it make you vulnerable, right? It's putting you in front of everyone's eye. They get to ask you questions, but it's a way of coming more fully into yourself, because when you make yourself vulnerable, you start to discover your strengths and your weaknesses and your priorities, what you really care about, because making yourself vulnerable is difficult. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. And generally, we only do that for things that we really care about, things that we're passionate about, or things that matter to us the most. So with the Six of Wands in reverse, the feminine energy is sort of resisting going into that vulnerable space, being out in the public eye, putting yourself out there to be seen, to be judged, to be tested, to fail. Some of the most successful people in the world fail 7 times out of 10, and they're considered to be incredibly successful. So failure isn't something to be it's not something to be avoided. And it's not something to be feared, although almost everybody fears it. I fear it. We, to some degree or another, we all fear it. But the people who succeed big are the ones who are willing to fail big. And they don't chastise themselves for their failures. They learn from them. They just say, okay, well, that didn't work out. What can I learn from it? Right? And that's the true gift of failure, is that you get to try something and learn from it and improve. And that goes with vulnerability. Vulnerability puts us in the only reason why we feel vulnerable is we're doing something that's new to us, that we're not familiar with. And so we feel uncertain. But that's how we learn and grow, and gain new talents and become confident in who we are and what we can do. And it also helps us figure out what we actually like, where our passions lie, what matters to us, what's a priority. So for the feminine energy, this week it's all about putting yourself out there, in whatever way that is to you. And being okay with being vulnerable, and being okay with feeling uncomfortable with that, and realizing that most people don't really judge harshly. They don't. And if they do, they forget about it 2 seconds later. Like, nobody cares if you fail. 2 seconds later, they're thinking about something else. And all you got to worry about is, if you did fail, then most likely most of that failure was a success, and only a small portion of it was a failure. And you just got to keep in your mind to think about, well, how could I have done that better? I mean, we should be doing that even if we, quote, succeed. We should always be thinking, well, that was good. Could it have been a little bit better? So be vulnerable, put yourself out there. That's how we learn. That's how we grow. That's how we become really confident. And that's a big part of how we find our true north and our path in life. So that's for the feminine energy. The masculine energy. Ooh, we got the moon in reverse. The moon in reverse. The moon's a really tricky card. A lot of people say it's, what's hidden from us, what's unknown. And I like that. But so in the Norse spiritual tradition, the moon was actually a masculine god. The sun was a feminine god. The tricky part of that is that the energy that they radiated off of them were their polar opposites. So the sun was a feminine goddess, but the energy that was radiated away from the sun was a masculine energy. It was a very active energy. Likewise, the moon was a masculine god, Mane. If you have ever heard about the man in the moon, well, that's where that comes from. It comes from the Germanic Norse spiritual tradition, the pre-Christian spiritual tradition, where the moon is represented as a male god or masculine god. But the light of the moon, because it's reflected from the sun, it's a very passive energy. It's a feminine energy, and that's why it's so healing. It's actually the sun was considered the soul, and the moon was considered our consciousness, because it reflected the light of the soul. Right? The sun is often too harsh to look at directly, just like the soul. The soul is so powerful, it's hard to look at directly. And so what happens is you have your conscious mind that reflects the light of the soul. And when I say consciousness, I don't mean our monkey mind. I don't mean our analytical sort of 3D monkey mind. I mean just our awareness, our conscious awareness. And I like that for the moon card because as developed as we are in science, even science can't tell us where consciousness comes from. They can't. Try as they might. I mean, you look at the brain and you look at all the parts, and you add it all up and you say, how does that create consciousness? Nobody knows. And then quantum physics even tells us that every single particle, even down to a photon of light, is conscious because it reacts to our intentions. When they were doing the particle wave duality experiment back in the 30s, trying to figure out if light was a particle or a wave, because it couldn't be both, had to be one or the other, they found out it was either a particle or a wave, depending on the intention of the scientists performing the experiments. So if they were intending it to test it to see if it was a particle, it was a particle. And if they intended to, if their intention was to test it to see if it was a wave, it behaved as a wave. And so back in the 30s, quantum mechanics, quantum physicists said that the only way that this is possible is that light is actually conscious of our intentions and reacts to it. So that was put out, and then everybody quickly just sort of swept that under the rug and didn't think about it. But if you think about it, that's basically magic. That's what magic is. Magic is that the particles of, quote, the real world react to our conscious intentions. And so I like ascribing consciousness to the moon card for that very reason, is that it is a very it's a very mystical property of humans that we have, our conscious awareness. And so I also like to think of the moon as representing not only our conscious awareness, but our unconscious, our subconscious and our unconscious, sort of that which is hidden from us, even from our own selves. And so with the moon in reverse, the masculine energy is basically resisting trusting what is unknown, and that's a very common issue with masculine energy, trusting that which is unknown, that which is hidden, that which is secret. Even in the Norse tradition, all of the seeresses or prophets or seers were or magicians, witches. They were mostly women, and the reason is that the men were very suspicious of this kind of magic, this kind of ability, even though they held those women in very high regard, and they were often the highest council. Kings would go to them and ask, is it safe for our tribe to do X, Y, and Z? Is it safe for us to attack? They would consult with the vulva and hold their counsel in the highest regard. But they were still very wary of this hidden mystical capabilities. So the masculine energy is really encouraged to start to trust that. And I know certainly in myself, I've struggled with this quite a bit. Trusting the mystical, trusting the hidden, and it's just been a long struggle of small little victories where something would happen and I would get a confirmation that I can trust it, that I can trust my intuition, I can trust the unseen, the messages that I'm getting from the unseen world. I mean, even doing these videos, it took me like 6-7 months before I even did my first video, and then it just took forever for me to start to really do them regularly, because I just didn't trust this side of myself, right? So for the masculine energy, it's really encouraging you to go ahead and trust that part of yourself which is hidden or mystical, and realize that it's real. It gives you good information. It's trustworthy, and it's an incredibly important part of every person's gifts. Having that trust in your sort of your mystical, feminine, hidden side of yourself, right? So we're trying to bring those two together. It's kind of funny because oops, I want to say it. Yeah, we'll do it like this. The feminine is being encouraged to sort of be a little more masculine. Get out there, be vulnerable, put yourself out in the spotlight. And then the masculine is being told to, trust in your feminine side, your hidden side, your mystical side, that mystical wisdom that we all have. So very fitting there. Okay, now we come to the Oracle card, which is the Enchanted Map series from Colette Baron-Reid. And I always forget to say that I'm using the Wizard's Tarot by Corrine Kenner. And I love this deck. If you look at it, it's just got great artistry. And what I really like is that Corrine doesn't give you a clear, here's what this means. She puts a lot of description into the writing of each card. And then you have to really kind of make it your own. You have to glean your own meaning from each card, which I really like about it. It makes it very personal. So the Oracle card we have today is Come Together, which is very fitting for what's going on with both the masculine and feminine. Each one being encouraged to move closer to their opposite sides. So I will read this from the book. Here we go. Come together. Love needs to be expressed. Drawing the Come Together card is a sign that you're on the path to discover the nature of this emotion in all of its forms of expression: romantic, familial, unconditional, and spiritual. In each instance, there is another being involved. Love involves a give and take between you and a significant other, a relative, a friend, an animal, and or spirit. This card assures you that love has come calling and seeks a partner in its dance. Know that you are cherished. Like a magnet, you're attracting love into your life. This is the time for harmonious, caring partnership. All right. So that was the Come Together card. And I think that works really well with the feminine energy coming closer to the masculine, and the masculine energy being encouraged to come closer to the feminine. So that's it for the week. I wish you all well. Be happy, be safe, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye.